So this is the second known cemetery in Canyon. Now we're trying to find where the first person was buried here. So let's go find him. So I'm still looking for that one headstone, but look at this monument. How cool is that? A couple of things that are kind of interesting. There's just these random pieces of stone. I don't know if they're meant to be a marker because they're placed almost in line with the other ones, but there's nothing on them. So obviously I'm going to try to act like that there is someone there and walk behind the headstones. That way I don't disrespect anyone. So kind of more what I was just showing you. So no headstones, but the graves are obviously marked. Same with this one, but this one actually has a monument. So I'm wondering if these are all just kids. Look at this. I've never seen one like this. They encased the entire top of the ground with just a huge layer of concrete. And it's pretty big, so I don't know if this is meant so you can walk on top, but kind of interesting. I haven't seen something like this before. Looky who came to join me. You can kind of see some of the engraving still left on it, but it's so far gone you can't really tell. There you go. Here's one that someone's replaced, but kept the wood. Here, let me zoom in on that so you can read it. Alright, so we're kind of at the more, I guess, ran down side of the cemetery. And you can see there's a few markers that have been either fell over time or just someone probably kicked them over. But I think it's because they're the sandstone, I believe, and so they just kind of crumble anyways. We found him. Only had to go around the whole cemetery just to find him. Alrighty. So here's the guy I want to show you. William M. Davis. Died 1865. Age of 34 years old. He is the first known person to be buried at this cemetery. Alright, so I found the second place I want to show you. This is the gravesite of James H. Peabody, which was the governor of Colorado between 1903 to 1905. So back in the day, there was a man named William C. Catlin, I believe is how you say it. And before this was all cemetery, he donated 10 acres of his own private land so Canyon could have a cemetery. Alrighty, so we are at the very top of the cemetery. I mean, you can see the entire thing. It's pretty cool up here, but there's a reason I brought you up here. Alright, well, I apologize for the sign. The last letter was shot out. But the sign is for CSP. which is Colorado State Penitentiary. So they made a designated area just for the prisoners, but some of them only got their inmate number. Some of them did get their actual name. I believe in later years they started adding their own names, but the first section, because there's 2 sections, the first section, it just has their inmate number. It doesn't even have their name on it. And I'll show you a picture of the I'll show you the prison that they all came from. And the prison is right over here. So that is the prison that all these inmates came from. That is called Territorial Prison. And if you look, that's Skyline Drive. And if you look at the top here, they have a sniper's post. And they have a very old one at the very top. And same with that one. Now, I do not know if they still use the very old sniping post, but it is still there. That whole back side of Skyline is completely blocked off. You can't get to anything from there, which makes sense because people were, back in the day, people would climb across the ridge, and they would throw stuff in the courtyard. And then the inmates would get it and obviously cause a huge ruckus. So they blocked off that whole side of the mountains. That way no one could throw stuff in, or, you know. Alright, so while I was in the inmate section, the first section, I found something rather interesting, and I'm going to share it with you. So this inmate actually has his own monument, right? Alright, so this is Joe. I even have a picture of him. Here lies an innocent man, pardoned on June 7th, 2011. And now, the really interesting part, here, let me get on the other side of him. The state actually made him a letter. And I'll kind of go over it slowly so you can pause and read it. Alright, so in the kind of the corner of the cemetery, here is the oldest marker I found in this section. So let's see here. Let's move this little twig so we can see. W.C. Kelly, 1934. Alright, and here's the newest inmate burial I found. From 71. The second one that has the kind of the prison style placard is W.J. Wilson in 1970. Alright, we are at the other section of the CSP graveyard. But these ones are a little different. Let me show you why. Alrighty, I went through this whole inmate section and I counted only 12 out of probably, I would say at least 100 people. At least 12 people with these little metal markers that actually had their name and their date. The rest of them just say CSP inmate, and that's it. Now, there are 5 gravestones, but none of them say if it's inmate number or anything like that. All of them are fairly young, and it just says when they died. It doesn't really say when they're born. It just says their age and then their date of death. So I think they are inmates, but their families must have paid for a monument instead of the rest of them. So now I'm going to show you a few that markers I'm kind of confused about. I'm not really sure which century they're in. We'll go through and look at them, and then I'll show you the ones that I know for sure are very old. Alright, so this is one of the first. This is 1886 at 28 years old. Next one is Gill, 1880. Alrighty, so these are the two markers I'm kind of confused about. Pacheco, 45, says 01. It could be 1901 or it could be 2001, but I don't think it's 2001. Then we have another marker from 00, so it could be 1900 at age 30. And then we have another one from also 00. So I don't think they are from 2000, because all the research I've been doing, it shows the last inmates that were put in here were in the 70s. So those would have to be from the 1900s. Here's another one I thought was kind of interesting. From the Civil War to 1902. But it's the same style, so I think someone redid his marker for him instead of the CSP. Alright, and this one I believe is one of the oldest in here, from 99. So if we know that one of the last inmates were from 1970, that means this inmate was buried in 1899. Now this is the only stone in this area that has his birth date and death. Alright, so one of these markers, which are one of the gravestones I showed you earlier, actually has a really cool story behind it. I had to check my notes, and of course it's farther down. But let me tell you the story behind Mr. Edward. So Mr. Edward died in 1930, it looks like. The cool story behind Mr. Edward, which I think is why he has the clover on his gravestone, he was actually hanged twice. The first time he was hanged, it did not work. So they had to do it a second time. Now I don't know if the second time happened to be like right after, or if it was a rescheduled hanging. Because when he died, they didn't have gas chambers or anything. They had hanging. So the second time, obviously they got him. But he had to be hanged twice. That's kind of a cool story, which is probably why he's got a little marker. Well, in between going to our next spot I want to show you, one thing that you'll notice is that you'll find quite a few grave markers with little lambs on them. Well, those sadly are the children grave markers. So we're back up at the first section for the inmates. Now, it is actually called Woodpecker Hill because of the woodpeckers. But it's the only, out of the two sections, this is the only one that has the actual names of the inmates on all the markers. The section down below doesn't have hardly any. I think we counted like 12 minus the gravestones. One thing kind of interesting I just found. Pacheco and Pacheco right next to each other. They both have the same death date, but they're 15 years apart on birth date, but they both had the same sentence. But they're both Pacheco, so they might have been brothers. Alright, so you remember this grave right in the corner of the cemetery? Turns out, this guy right here, his name is William Cody Kelly. He was the very first person to be executed from the gas chamber. Alright, so now we're at the second. So now, this is Louis J. Monge, I believe is how you say it, M-O-N-G-E. But anyways, Louis was the very last person to be executed in the gas chamber. Alright, so now we're on to the next part. So in this cemetery there are many people from all different kinds of wars. So we have people from the Spanish-American War, World War I and II, the Korean War, and Vietnam. And we also have Confederate and Union soldier graves here. So let's go find a few. Isn't related to the veteran spot, but look at this. Somebody actually took the time to put this monument back together. That's pretty cool. Now this one's pretty cool. Look at this. The War of 1812. Alrighty, sorry about cutting it short. It started to rain on me, so that's about what I could do for today. I didn't find all the veteran markers I wanted to find before it started raining, but I really hope you enjoy this. I've been wanting to make this video for quite a few months, so if you liked it, please hit the like button, maybe subscribe if you want. I'm going to be trying to do a lot more videos now, so thank you, bye.